It started with something crawling in your hair. 3,700 years before you were born, someone sat down and carved a plea into a small object aimed at something too small to see. That object still exists, and carved into it is something historians didn't even notice for years. This is the secret life of the comb, and a fight that's older than almost anyone realizes. Go back far enough, and you find it in nearly every civilization that kept records, because everyone had the same problem: hair, dirt, and things that bite. The earliest refined versions come from settlements in ancient Persia, dating back roughly 5,000 years, carved from bone, wood, or ivory, tooth, by hand. It wasn't a luxury, it was survival equipment. Deep in the soil at Tel Lachish in Israel in 2016, a team from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Southern Adventist University lifted a small ivory object out of the ground. It was about 3,700 years old, carved around 1700 BCE, a row of thick teeth on one side for pulling tangles apart, a denser row of fine teeth on the other, spaced to drag lice and their eggs out of hair. The same design still sold in pharmacies today. For more than 5 years, nobody noticed anything unusual about it. Years later, a researcher photographing it under raking light angled low across the surface, caught something. Tiny scratches, letters. It was a sentence, the oldest complete sentence ever found, written in a phonetic alphabet, the ancestor of the one you're reading right now. 17 letters, 7 words in the original Canaanite, 1 full sentence, translated here for the first time on this channel. May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard. And lodged between the teeth, still there after 37 centuries, the remains of an actual louse. Someone had made a tool, then asked it, in writing, to do its job. Move forward roughly 1,000 years from Lachish, and the same object shows up somewhere new, not just in the hand, but in the hair itself, left in place on display. In Greece and Rome, it became a mark of status. Boxwood for the everyday, tortoiseshell and ivory for the wealthy. The material told you who someone was before they said a word. Function hadn't disappeared, it had just picked up a second job. For most of human history, every one of these was cut by hand, tooth by tooth, from horn or bone, a slow and aching craft. Then in 1799, a Connecticut deacon and silversmith named Phineas Pratt patented something new, a machine that could cut the teeth automatically. Within a decade, his son's business was advertising a claim that would have sounded impossible a generation earlier. One worker with the machine, cutting the teeth for roughly 480 combs in a single day. Handcraft had just become industry. Horn and wood had limits. They warped, they splintered, they rotted. By 1851, hardened rubber finally solved the old temperature problem. No more turning stiff in winter or soft in summer. But it only ever came out plain and black, gave off a faint sulfur smell when warmed, and stayed brittle enough to crack with age. It could replace bone. It couldn't replace ivory's shine. What the object actually needed hadn't been invented yet. It arrived by accident. In 1863, a New York billiards company offered $10,000 to anyone who could invent a substitute for ivory billiard bowls. A young printer named John Wesley Hyatt spent years chasing that prize. He never collected it, but the chemistry he stumbled into became something new: celluloid, patented in 1870. The material wasn't shy about announcing itself either. Celluloid billiard bowls sometimes cracked together with a noise sharp enough that one Colorado saloon keeper complained his customers kept reaching for their guns, mistaking it for gunfire. But its real destination wasn't the pool hole. On February 5, 1878, Hyatt patented a process for molding combs directly from celluloid, strong, flexible, cheap to shape in bulk. The object that started as carved bone had just become plastic. Now, it's the cheapest thing in your bathroom drawer, pocket change, bought in packs of dozens, replaced without a thought. But somewhere in that plastic is a lineage that runs backward through a Connecticut machine shop, a rubber factory's failed experiment, a Roman noblewoman's hair, and a plea carved into ivory by someone who couldn't have imagined you'd ever read it. You've been holding a piece of that whole history every single morning. The most ordinary objects carry the most extraordinary weight. You just have to know where to look. Here on Wonder Raft, we look. Subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.